David Carter, a struggling restaurant owner, barely had enough to keep his business alive. But when he saw a homeless mother and her son shivering outside his restaurant, he made a choice that he couldn't afford. What happened next? It changed everything. David Carter stared at the empty tables inside his small diner, his fingers gripping the edge of the counter. Another slow night. The restaurant business had once been his dream. A place filled with laughter, the smell of fresh bread, the warmth of family gatherings. But lately, it felt like a slow death. Bills piled up, customers disappeared, he was running out of time. He sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. Maybe it was time to give up. Then, a movement outside caught his attention. Through the frosted window, he saw a woman and a small boy huddled together on the sidewalk. The woman's coat was thin and torn. The little boy's fingers clutched at her sleeve, his cheeks red from the cold. David's heart tightened. They weren't begging, they weren't knocking on doors, they were just waiting like they had nowhere else to go. David glanced at his empty restaurant, the place he was about to lose anyway. Then, before he could overthink it, he walked to the door, pushed it open, and stepped outside. The cold air bit at his skin. "Excuse me, ma'am." The woman flinched, pulling her son closer. I'm sorry, we'll move." David shook his head. "That's not what I meant." He nodded toward the diner. "Come inside, get warm." The woman hesitated, her eyes filled with doubt. We don't have any money." David swallowed hard. Neither did he, but he forced a smile. "Good thing I'm not charging." The woman's lip trembled. She looked at her son, who stared up at David with wide, hungry eyes. Then slowly she nodded, and as David them inside, he had no idea that this simple act of kindness would change his life forever. David pulled out a chair at the coziest booth in his empty diner. The woman hesitated before slowly lowering herself onto the seat, pulling her son close. The little boy, no older than 6, clung to her side, his big tired eyes scanning the warm diner. David could tell they hadn't been inside a heated place in a long time. "You guys like soup?" he asked, trying to keep his voice light. The little boy's head snapped up. The mother blinked, her hands tightening around the edges of her thin coat. "Sir, we don't want to be a burden." "You're not," David said quickly. Even if technically, he couldn't afford to give away food right now. He forced a small smile. "I made too much tonight anyway." A lie. The woman bit her lip, hesitant. But when she looked down at her son, his eyes filled with she gave in. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." David nodded once before heading into the kitchen. He grabbed a bowl and ladled in his last batch of homemade vegetable soup. It wasn't much, but it was warm, it was something. As he placed the bowl in front of the boy, the child's face lit up. It smells so good." David's chest tightened. The woman wiped her eyes quickly before whispering, "Go ahead, sweetie." The boy picked a spoon with both hands, eating like it was the best thing he'd ever had. David couldn't stop staring. A part of him ate. He knew what hunger looked like, but seeing a child like this, it did something to him. After a few moments, the woman finally looked up at him. "My name is Rachel," she said softly, "and this is my son Noah." David smiled faintly. "Nice to meet you, Rachel." "Noah." She hesitated. "Why are you doing?" David opened his mouth, then closed it. What could he say? That his restaurant was failing, that he had nothing left to lose. Instead, he simply said, "Because I know what it's like to struggle." Rachel's eyes softened. A quiet understanding passed between them. For the first time in a long time, David didn't feel so alone. But what none of them knew, fate had something bigger planned, because the next morning when David unlocked his restaurant doors, a line of people was waiting outside. And at the very front, Rachel and Noah. David froze. A long line of people stretched down the sidewalk outside his restaurant. He blinked, his exhausted brain struggling to process what he was seeing. Yesterday his diner was empty. Today there was a crowd. And standing right in front, bundled up against the morning chill, were Rachel and Noah. David quickly unlocked the door, stepping outside. "What's going on?" Rachel's eyes were brighter than they had been last night. "You helped us," she said softly. "Now we're here to help you." David's heart pounded. "Help me?" Rachel nodded, gesturing to the crowd behind her. Word got out. David frowned. Word got out. Rachel smiled. A woman at the shelter heard about what you did for us. She posted about it online. People started sharing it and now she motioned to the crowd. They want to support your restaurant. David's stomach flipped. He scanned the crowd, dozens of people, young and old, standing in line ready to eat at a diner they had never stepped foot in before. A man in a construction uniform grinned. Any place that helps a struggling mother and kid is a place I want to spend my money at. A woman holding a coffee laughed. Plus I heard the soup's pretty damn good. David's throat tightened. He had spent months watching his business fail. And now, because of one act of kindness, it was being saved by complete strangers. Rachel stepped closer. We came to thank you and Noah. She smiled softly. He wants to help too. David glanced down at Noah, who beamed up at him. Can I work here, Mr. David? Noah asked, bouncing on his toes. I can wipe tables and taste test the soup. David let out a choked laugh. Something warm spread through his chest. He had thought he was giving Rachel and Noah a second chance. But maybe they were giving him one too. He took a deep look at the long line of people waiting to eat at his struggling diner. Then he clapped his hands together. All right, folks, he called out, grinning for the first time in months, let's make some breakfast. As the crowd cheered, Rachel and Noah stepped inside. Into the restaurant that was about to change all of their lives forever.